Hey everyone, welcome back to Chessbox Worldwide. This isn't just a chess game, it's a masterclass of aggression from the reigning world chess champion GM Gukesh. Right from the opening, he unleashed a daring knight sacrifice, igniting the board with a blaze of tactical possibilities that left the current world number 10 GM Anish Giri reeling. Every move was a punch, building unstoppable attack that culminated in a thrilling victory. This electrifying win is an early statement from Gukesh, proving he's here to dominate at the Tata Steel Chess 2025. Get ready for more fireworks from this young prodigy. The white pieces, the reigning world chess champion Gukesh opened the game with knight f3 and GM Anish Giri played knight f6. g3, we see d5, and after bishop goes to g2, c5, trying to occupy the center, short castling, and after knight comes to c6, d4. In this position, either pawn takes d4 or pawn comes to e6 are the key moves. e6, and after c4, d takes c4. In this position, pawn takes c5 is anticipated, but however, the reigning world chess champion played queen f4, baiting Anish Giri to go on and play pawn takes d4. But however, Anish went on and played the best move. He played bishop d7. For example, in case of c takes d4, it's a positional blunder because of knight takes d4, sacrificing the knight. Knight on d4 is hanging, but the knight on c6 is under immense pressure from the queen, the bishop, and even the knight on d4. And remember, the queen has pinned down the knight against the king, as you can see on your screen. So in this position, queen d4 should be played, and after bishop takes c6, bishop d7. Another super strong move could be rook comes to d1, being supported by the queen and attacking the queen which is on d4. Bishop takes c6, and after queen takes c6 check, b takes c6, we could see rook takes d4, and after rook d8, rook takes c4, rook check. But remember, rook is now protecting the bishop which is on c1, king g2. The next moves are going to be coming in. Knight is going to come on c3, hitting on the rook which is on c1. The bishop is going to be developed, the rook is going to be connected, and the pawn which is on c6 is also hanging. And I can tell you at least white has a slight advantage in the position. That's why after queen f4, Anish played bishop d7, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, queen takes c4, hitting on the bishop which is on c5. Bishop goes back to e7. Rook d1 should have been considered, but he played knight c3, short castling, and now we see e4, trying to take control of the center. Queen f5 should have been considered, but he played rook c8. Now we see queen e2, bishop comes in c5, bishop goes to g5, and after h6, in this position, bishop takes f6 should have been played, but however, he played bishop h4, sacrificing a piece, and indeed Anish took the bait and played g5. Knight takes g5, pawn takes g5, and now bishop takes g5. In this position, Gukesh had planned to go ahead and play e5 if given an opportunity to open up for the bishop, but now Anish first of all played e5, cutting off all those possibilities of opening up for the bishop, and now Gukesh played queen d2, connecting the queen and the bishop. Bishop goes back to e7, trying to break the pin of the knight h6. In case black tries to save the rook by playing rook e8, then queen comes into g5, it will be checkmate in a few moves. That's why in this position, Anish gave up the rook and played king h7, attacking the bishop, and now we see bishop takes f8. In this position, Anish went on and played bishop takes f8, but however, queen takes f8 should have been considered. For example, after queen f8, king goes on to h1. Remember that the c5 square is very free for the bishop to come in. Queen comes to g7, knight d5, and after knight takes d5, e takes d5, knight d4, and f4. At least this could give Anish a playable game. But however, after bishop takes f8, he played bishop takes f8, and now Gukesh played f4, trying to dominate the center. Bishop e6, and now we see knight d5, knight b4. The knight on b4 can't be taken because the queen has pinned down queen on d2. F takes e5, the best move, and knight g4, attacking the pawn once again. And remember also the space of playing bishop c5 can't be forgotten. Now rook comes to d1, defending the queen, and now we see king h8, moving away from all the potential discovered checks which can come in from the knight in case the queen has been moved to f4. So in this position, Gukesh went on and played king h1, a prophylactic move to move away from the potential bishop check. But however, queen f4 should have been considered in case of knight comes to c6, h3, hitting on the knight which is on g4, bishop h6, and after queen f3, knight takes e5, queen c3, pinning down the knight. This could give Gukesh a simple playable game. But after king h8, he played king h1, rook c2, queen goes on to f4, knight takes d5, and now attacking the queen. And Gukesh first of all wanted to put the queen to sit on c3, so he played queen f3, trying to take control of the c3 square just in case. Remember, the knight can't move away because it has been pinned down. So queen e takes d5, rook comes to f2, queen c3, bishop f5 should have been considered in case of e6 check, bishop g7, e takes f7, sacrificing the queen. In case of bishop takes queen, then the pawn can go again to graduate into a queen, which is very powerful. That's why in this position we could see king h7, moving away so that now the bishop can be able to take the pawn on f8, and this could give Anish and dominate the position. But however, after queen c3, Anish played bishop b4, and now we see queen c1, bishop comes to f5, queen comes into g5, bishop f8, and now in this position, queen h5 should have been considered, maintaining an eye on the bishop which is on f5 and also the pawn which is on. But however, he played queen h4 check, g8 should have been considered, but he played bishop h6. h3 doesn't work because of the simple rook takes g2, comes into e1, stopping bishop pin, queen takes b2, Gukesh played h3, but however, rook takes f2 should have been considered. For example, after rook takes f2, you could have seen knight takes f2 check, king g1, knight g4. The f2 square is open for any checks from the queen supported by the knight. Rook comes to f1, king g7, moving away from the pin, rook takes f5, and after bishop comes to e3, king h1, queen b1, knight f2. At least in this position, everything would be equal, but black would be dominating the position. Queen takes b2. He played bishop e4. Gukesh played rook takes f2, knight takes f2. King goes to g1. Anish missed his winning chance and played queen b6. But however, the simple knight g4 was winning the game on the spot. For example, after knight g4, the bishop is attacking the bishop which is sitting on g2. The f2 and the h2 squares are being capitalized by the knight which is sitting on g5, and the queen is dominating. But however, after g1, Anish played queen b6 and Gukesh came back to life. He played queen check, exchanging the queens immediately. Queen takes f6, bishop takes g2, king takes g2, knight d3, and now we see rook e8 check, and after king h7, we see d6, knight comes c5, stopping the pawn advancements, rook e5 attacking the knight, and after knight goes to d7, rook e7. Anish resigned the game because of the potential rook is attacking the pawn which is on f7 and also attacking the knight, and also threatening to go ahead and push to get the queen in the next few moves. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in your games.